It's 12 o'clock, so welcome to the meeting of the Pension Subcommittee and Board. Veronica, if we could just make a start, please.
Thank you, Bailey Sawyers. This is a formal meeting of the Pension Subcommittee and Pension Board. Should any member need to leave this meeting for any reason, can they please use the meeting chat to advise of this? If a member loses their connection, they should make every effort to rejoin the meeting, but if not possible, I will note their absence for the remainder of the meeting. If you have to leave the meeting due to a declaration of interest, you should remain out of the meeting until you're invited back in. Would all members please mute their microphones when not speaking to avoid background noise? Please start the meeting with your camera on. Your face will appear on the screen when you're speaking. If your connection is poor, you may wish to turn off your camera and see if this improves things. If this doesn't help, you may wish to quickly leave the meeting and rejoin. If you wish to ask a question or speak on any item, please do so by typing into the meeting chat and the chair will then advise you to speak. Although we are operating in a different way, this is still a formal meeting of the Pension Subcommittee and the required standards of behaviour and discussion are the same as in face-to-face meetings, and the Councillors' Code of Conduct will apply in the normal way. Can I also remind members that the press and public may be attending this meeting? The nature of the meeting makes it impossible to vote by a show of hands, so for this reason, it's proposed all decisions that are required will be by means of roll call. To agree this, I require agreement from at least 2/3 of the members present. Is this agreed? I'll assume that members have agreed this. Finally, I would ask members do not admit any persons waiting in the lobby into the meeting. So I will now do a roll call for the members of Subcommittee and Board. Pension Subcommittee, Bailey Sawyers.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Lynn.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Rome.
Yes, present.
Bailey Keenan has submitted apologies. Councillor McHugh.
Present.
Councillor Crichton. Councillor Crichton. I'll note Councillor Crichton's absence. Pension Board, George Ramsey.
Oh, sorry, present.
No problem, thank you. Councillor Donaldson has advised that he may be late to this meeting. Councillor Duff.
Yes, present.
Kenny Dick.
I'm here, thanks.
Claire Shepherd. I'll note that Claire isn't attending. Arthur Nichol.
Present.
And Raymond Boyd. I'll note Raymond's absence. So now we move to the main agenda. Item 1, declaration of interest. Are there any declarations? No. Item 2, apologies. Can any further apologies please be intimated in the chat? Item 3, minute of previous meeting. This is for your approval. So item 4, appointment of chairperson of the Pension Board. The subcommittee and board's instructions are requested.
So the post of chair is subject to annual change due to the regulations. Last year, the role of chair has been undertaken by Councillor Bill Duff, and I'd like to thank him for what he's done over the past year, and I'd like to ask for nominations for the role of chair for the coming year, as Bill obviously is an employer representative and the role switches between employer and members. Invitation now falls to a member representative. So I'm seeing Arthur, you've got a hand up.
Yeah, I'm happy to nominate George Ramsey.
Yep, okay. George, you happy to take that on?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Not seeing any other indications of interest. So on that note, George, congratulations. Okay, Veronica, please.
Item 5, Tayside Pension Fund Risk Register. This report is for your approval.
So this is reviewed on a quarterly basis and reported on to reflect levels of current risk. Members are asked to approve and note the changes to the risk profile since the previous report. Any questions on this item? George.
Yeah, there is a few dots in the red zone, and I'm just wondering if there is a plan to get them out of the red zone on 2 or 3 of the things within the report.
Yep, so who wants to take that? That be Paul or Stuart?
Happy to take that question, Bailey Sayers.
Yes.
George, is there any particular risk that gives you concern?
Yeah, it was governance, and there's another one. I'll just get the paperwork. Yeah, I think it was on the system, the security of the system. I think it'll be data protection or something, would it be? Or security controls protocols. It's right in the red for inherent risk.
Yeah. So clearly we review the risk register on a quarterly basis in relation to, to a number of different areas. I'm not aware in terms of, well, in the current review, there's nothing that we've highlighted that has had an increased risk that would put anything into that red territory. There is, of course, in relation to any risk register, there's a level of appetite that any organisation would have in relation to risk in terms of where it's happy to manage that. But I'm certainly happy to look at that specific item that you've mentioned, George, and come back with any further information out with the meeting if that helps.
That's fine, thanks.
Okay, with these comments, is that item agreed? Veronica, moving on, please.
Item 6, Pension Administration Performance, Quarterly Update to the 31st of December 2024. This report is for noting.
So, quarterly update. Any questions on this? Oh, Kenny?
Yeah, it was just one question on the member self-service portal, and I noticed that's going to get replaced by a new system. Is that a procurement exercise, or is it just an update on the system that we migrate to?
Paul?
My understanding it's the latter, Kenny, but if I could maybe ask Amanda to come in and confirm that's the case. It's not a separate system, it's just a move within the same portal.
Yeah, happy to answer that, Paul. Yeah, it is a move within the same system, but we will have to refer to procurement just to make sure that all stays within the previous contract.
Okay, Arthur?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see the figures actually look a bit better this quarter than they have been. So it seems to be a bit of improvement. I mean, I know we had issues with staffing in the years run up to this, so it's good to see that I'm looking at the average days and they're looking a little bit better. We've had discussions in the past about that final column that's on the this in terms of the dealing with different types of requests within statute days, etc. And I'm aware we're going to be looking at seeing if we can get an average, account for the number that we're out of statute within the period. I'm quite patient waiting for that, but that's all right. But I was wondering, I was querying. I recognise that some of the employers were going to another period where a lot of the employers, some of the main employers, I know Dundee City, for instance, is looking at some sort of VER scheme. I appreciate that might be impacting on workloads in the next 6 months to a year. So how are we looking in terms of being, able to cope with that and build that into the work schedules that we've got, and still try and maintain our what looks like reasonable performance now?
Paul?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Arthur. So we are liaising with Dundee City, as we do with all employers, in relation to any schemes. So we're confident that we'll be able to deal with any additional workload that arises through the scheme that they're looking at.
Okay, I'm not seeing any further questions, so I'm taking agreement for that report. Veronica, moving on, please.
Thank you. Item 7, Tayside Pension Fund, Audit Scotland Annual Audit Plan 2024-25. This is for noting.
So this report provides a summary of the responsibilities and approach of Audit Scotland in respect of the pension fund for the 2024-25 accounts. Any questions on this item? Rachel.
Thanks, Chair. Can I just run through some points on the plan with members? Because under auditing standards, there are certain matters I need to bring to your attention as those charged with governance. Right. So if I take a couple of minutes of that would be handy. Firstly, say I'm Rachel Brown from Audit Scotland. I'm your appointed external auditor for Tayside Pension Fund. So part of the annual audit plan at the start confirms that I and my team are appropriately independent of the fund. To fulfil that role, that's an important part of the external audit role, is to be independent of the audited body. The plan sets out the scope at page 52 of your papers of my audit, which is not just an audit of your financial statements in the annual report and accounts. It also covers wider scope areas of financial management, financial sustainability, vision, leadership and governance, and your use of resources to improve outcomes, which is about the fund's performance, and your duty of best value. As a pension fund, the statutory responsibility for best value sits with your administering authority, Dundee City Council, and I'm also the appointed auditor of Dundee City Council, so my work will also cover best value at the council, and anything that's relevant to the pension fund I will report to you, to the pension subcommittee, at the end of the year. We also report in the annual audit plan the materiality levels that we work to in terms of judging the significance of any errors we might find, misstatements. Those are unchanged, those percentages from the prior year, and that's set out in Exhibit 1 in the plan. The next exhibit in the plan sets out, for your information, you are required to be aware of significant risks of material misstatement that our planning and risk assessment work has identified. The most significant risk is fraud caused by management override of controls. This is a presumed risk in all audits. So it's not specific to Tayside Pension Fund, but it's a risk that is presumed in auditing standards. We can't rebut it. We are required to do work on it every year across all our audits. And the exhibit sets out what we'll be doing to address that. And I'll report back on how we've addressed that risk in the annual audit report in September. We have one less significant risk of material misstatement, which is in the disclosure of the actuarial valuation of future retirement benefits, which is obviously dependent on specialist actuarial assumptions. So we do work to assess the capability of the actuary and the reasonableness of assumptions, and we use our own actuary and an auditor's expert in our work to address that work, because I am an auditor, not an actuary. So we do rely on our own expert in that regard. Any key audit matters, including how we've addressed those risk material misstatement will be included in my annual audit report at the conclusion of the audit. It will cover the wider scope areas that are covered at page 58 of your papers. And just to confirm that at paragraph 26, we've not identified any specific wider scope or best value risks, so our audit work will be standard audit work in that regard for the pension fund. The next section of the plan covers reporting arrangements in our timetable. I anticipate bringing you an annual audit report in September to the September meeting, which allows you to comply with the statutory reporting deadlines for local government bodies. And we set out our audit fee at paragraph 32, which is the baseline expected fee for the pension fund. It is set on the anticipation that you will have robust controls that are evidenced and in operation all year, that you've good quality accounts, and that we'll get all the information and explanations we require for our audit. I make a note that we have in the past couple of years noticed an increasing number of assurance requests from employer body auditors to get their assurance for the employer body audits. Some of those have been quite complex and some of those have been late. So I have put in a proviso that if we have to undertake more work than we have planned to do to satisfy employer bodies for their assurance, I reserve the right to charge additional fees to the fund, which could then be recharged to employer bodies should the pension fund choose. So that's the first time I've made that explicit in a plan. Just noticed that of the workload that we have experienced in prior years. We are acutely aware of the financial pressures on the fund. We experience those financial pressures as well. So my job is to make the audit as efficient as possible. So my plan and the planned fee cover the risks we've identified. So that's just a proviso to the members that if we need to undertake additional work, I will charge additional fee, and I would agree that with management. The end of the plan covers our acknowledgement of internal audits work. We try not to duplicate the work of internal audit, but to take account of their findings as we do, and they provide important assurance for us in terms of the governance compliance statement and annual governance statement in your accounts. And we also summarise our audit quality arrangements as Audit Scotland in those plans, and we seek feedback. Part of our quality assurance processes are asking audited bodies about the quality of engagement, the quality of reporting and assurance you get from our work. So the chair of the subcommittee and senior officers will be approached at the conclusion of the audit for their views, and I would welcome feedback to myself or to the team at any time if members wanted to do that. I've got one thing to draw to your attention and ask for any comments from members at paragraph 9 on, I forgot which page that's on, paragraph 9 of my report. I'm asking if there are any matters related to fraud that members want to draw to my attention. I have considered the fraud risk for the pension fund in drawing together my planning and risk assessment work. If there is anything members are aware of in terms of actual or suspected fraud that they think needs to be brought to my attention and hasn't been already, can you please let me know in this meeting? And at that point, I was going to pause and take questions on the plan or the audit on any aspect of the content. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. Stephen, you've got a question. Why not to point out some fraud somewhere?
No, you'll be reassured that that's not it. Just unfortunately where that was ended. But thanks very much, Rachel. That's really comprehensive, and my questions maybe being overtaken by events. But I'm just aware from other boards that I sit on that there has been issues in terms of completing audits to agreed timetables with Audit Scotland in terms of a backlog. And you did say that you expect working with management to meet the specific audit timetable, but it's just kind of that reassurance if there was any issues that we get updated if we're not going to meet statutory guidelines. But it doesn't sound like from what you've said that that's likely, and that you've caught up that backlog.
Thanks for the question. And yes, we have, we as Audit Scotland have a prioritised programme of recovering audit deadlines over, it dates back to COVID when we paused work to allow bodies to get on with frontline service provision. And auditing standards don't allow us to cut or drop pieces of work. So there was essentially more work to be done in a shorter period of time. So some of the audits have been late in that period since COVID, and some of them still are. But we have prioritised audits, particularly audits like your own, where we provide assurances to others. And for Teesside, yes, I am confident at this point that we will deliver for September. If something happened, for example, I don't know, long-term absence of key people in the team, say, I would draw that to your attention and to officers' attention just as soon as that occurred. But we delivered to September last year, and I would expect to deliver to September this year and future years of the audit appointment. Thanks.
No, that's really reassuring. Thank you. And I've no issue with you charging more money if you have to put in those extra hours, because obviously that's perfectly standard. And as you say, you have to do the work. There's no cutting corners, so that's perfectly understandable.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. I'm not seeing any further indications of questions, so I'm going to take that as approval for that report.
So item number 8, internal audit risk assessment and audit plan 25-26. This is for noting.
So any comments or questions on this report? Any?
Two points from me on the internal audit plan. The audit on, what was it, the administrator IT general controls. I'd wondered about that because there isn't any history of any previous internal audits there, but I saw that was coming up in 2026. But in the map to the audit opinion, it does seem to be in the map for 25-26. So I wasn't sure where that audit was going. And the other point I was going to ask, if the internal auditors are here, I'm not sure if they are or not, was on the audit in Universe and internal audit risk assessment, starting on page 75. Yeah, that's all sequentially numbered, but it goes from page 78 to 79 in our papers. It goes from 24 to 31. So I wondered if we're missing any part of that.
So who can pick that
I'll
up?
I'll take
We've
that.
got Aaron, but yeah, we've got Aaron on the call.
Hi
Oh,
there,
right.
Aaron.
Yeah.
Aaron Benderseek, PwC,
Hi, Aaron.
and I apologise, my camera wasn't. So in terms of the administrator IT general controls, that would be for the next financial year, not the one that's coming up. So we'll update the plan accordingly, the universe accordingly, to reflect that. And from what it appears, no, it all seems to be complete in terms of what's being reported here.
Kenny, you okay with that?
Yeah, I just wondered why it goes from 24 to 31 still, though.
I think that's some clerical error, but
I think it's on page 79 of the papers, Aaron, and page 9 of your internal audit plan. So the processes goes from 24 to 31.
Yeah, from 8 to 9, from page 8 to 9.
Sorry, I see what you mean now. No, that 31 needs updating.
So we're not missing anything.
But no, not missing anything. Apologies.
okay, Stephen.
Thanks, Willie. I remember getting a bit of advice that there are no stupid questions, but I might be able to test that one a little bit. It's just for my understanding of the audit universe, and usually with the risk register, you know, it's a document that we see again and again, and we get that risk by multiplying the impact versus the likelihood. But I'm just wondering how we can know the likelihood, given that the risk assessment hasn't been done yet, if that makes sense.
Aaron, any thoughts on that?
In terms, you mean in terms of how internal audit does its risk assessment?
Yes, because normally for the risk register you would be multiplying impact versus likelihood, and I'm wondering how we can know these in advance, if that makes sense, because it's you've yet to do the audit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so this is based on industry knowledge. We work with many other pension funds in the industry. Secondly, from where we have performed work with Tayside in the past, then that's reflected there, and we'll also be informed by your own risk register as well in terms of likelihood. So, for example, if it was cyber risk, just because of industry knowledge, and we see that being higher likely across many organisations, not just pension funds. But where we have done a review in the past, so for example, cash flow and liquidity at Tayside, we have a much better informed view of likelihood in those areas.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions or comments, so I'm assuming approval for this item.
Thank you. So now we'll move to item number 9, Tayside Pension Fund Internal Auditors Report, Third Party Management Review. And this is for noting.
This is item 8 in my agenda, Veronica. So
oh, sorry.
Okay. So details the review that focused on third-party management of service providers. Any queries on this report? Not seeing anything, so I'm taking that as approval as well.
So we now move to the next item. Treasury Policy Statement 25-26 for noting.
Any questions on this? Arthur.
Yeah, I'm just, I don't know if it's the right part of the agenda to be raised now, but it was just a query that popped in my head when I saw this about who takes responsibility for keeping track of the impact of the reduction in contributions and the expected the recent reduction in our contribution rates and the initial planned view on how that was going to impact vis-a-vis our funding levels at the time, and what the projected kind of soft landing of where that would take us in terms of where the funding level would be at the end of a certain period of time. Is who's taking responsibility for tracking whether that's on target or not on target? It might be even doing better. We might be doing better than we thought in relation to the funding level vis-a-vis the fact that we're taking this decision to reduce our employer contribution rates.
Yeah, okay. Who wants to pick that one up?
I'm happy to take that one. Yeah, so it's obviously we have got Barnett Waddingham, our appointed actuary, who provides quarterly funding updates to the committee, and it's later in the agenda today. So we're continually sharing information with the actuary around cash flow information for each of our employers, and obviously the data around members' information as well. And they're preparing a report every quarter to update on funding. So you'll find that at the end or further down the agenda, Arthur. I suppose your point about reduction in contribution funding is managed through our cash flow model. So we update a cash flow model to see employees' contributions coming into the fund every month, and we obviously are monitoring that for approximately 12 months ahead. So we anticipate what our cash flow requirement is to pay benefits in future. So any disinvestment from fund managers is carefully planned, and we target certain portfolios to bring back funding to pay pension benefits. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks, Stuart.
Okay, if there's no further questions, I think that is agreed.
So the next item, Treasury Management Strategy 2025 to 26.
Annual report outlining the fund strategy. Any questions on this one? Not seeing anything, so I'll take that as being agreed as well.
So the next item is Pension Administration Strategy.
Any questions on this item? Our annual report. Kenny, please.
Just rather than questions, maybe just a point to consider. I was wondering, the strategy is fully involving employers, and we send a copy to employers, but would that be strengthened by if we asked employers to come back and say they're agreeing with the strategy or not, kind of thing? And just wanted the officer's opinion on that, whether that would strengthen how we operate with employers in the scheme.
Who wants to pick that question? Paul?
Yeah, happy to answer that. So apologies, Kenny, I don't know the answer to that one, if whether or not we consult with employers as part of the preparation or the review of the strategy each year, but certainly happy to take that off table and come back. All employers will have a copy of all papers, of course, that come to the committee, but you know, your point is whether or not they can influence them in advance of that. So happy to take that and off table and come back to you.
Okay, not seeing any further queries, so I think that report is agreed.
Okay. So item 12, Tayside Pension Fund Communication Policy.
Really, as it says on the report, so any queries on this or questions? Not seeing anything, so take that as approval.
Item 13,
Sorry.
pensions. Oh, apologies.
Oh, Arthur.
Sorry, I was late raising my hands on the communication policy. It just occurs to me, I suppose as member representatives on the board, it's one of the areas that kind of we should be kind of keeping an eye on, because I think one of the big things that we deal with in terms of trade unions is sadly a lack of knowledge by our members about how the pension works and how to find out about what's going on. So we've got like the portal for the members portal, etc. for the and that's now used by and large as the mechanism for giving people their statements, etc., allowing people to do their forecast and everything. But I still think we have to look quite closely at how well members are aware of it, uptake and use of it, and even in terms of people using it, are they really understanding what they're seeing properly, and do they have enough pension knowledge to actually make sense of it in a way that's valuable to them? So, I mean, that's probably a key thing for all of us. But in terms of communication, do we think we're doing a good enough job of doing that? And other things that we could try to better. I'm thinking of things like joint training things and stuff like we used to do in the past, to try and encourage members to understand their pension better and plan better for their pension.
Do you want to respond to that, please?
So happy to come back, Billy. So again, Arthur, thanks for the question. So we review the communications policy each year, and the information that's available to all members, including on the website, etc. This document provides a comprehensive list of everything that's included there. Happy to take any kind of specific or constructive feedback in terms of any suggestions where that may change. There is the facility within the communications there for any feedback from members, etc., where they don't understand the information. There is also the FAQs, etc., that's available for all members to see.
I'm thinking particularly of maybe doing some surveying of members, both active, deferred, etc., about, do they feel that they have enough knowledge? And maybe use some examples or something like that to say, do you think you know enough about X, Y, and Z, and see what kind of results we're getting from members? Do they know where to go? Do they know what different aspects of the tools for forecasting, etc., how they work and what they mean, and just to basically test out if we think that they're actually grasping, I know we put lots of information out there, but do we know if the members are actually following, are really following it, and is there a way of maybe surveying them to see where there might be things that we could focus on in terms of improving communication around these things, so that we know that members are better engaged and aware of what their rights and how the scheme works, etc.
No, thanks, Arthur. Certainly happy to take that one away and give it some further thought and come back to you.
Okay, thanks for that. Not seeing any further contributions, so I'll take that report as agreed. Veronica, moving on, please.
Yes, thank you. We move to item 13, the Pensions Regulator General Code Update. This is for noting.
So, any queries on this? Paul, is there anything you want to say to this, or really self-explanatory?
I mean, just to members of the board will recall, as part of the audit last year, it noted the general code update and the requirements. So, as noted in the agenda note, we have commissioned ISEO to undertake a review of all the governance. That review is underway, and we will report the outcome of that review, including any actions that are required for the fund in due course.
Okay, thanks. Seeing any contributions, so I'll take that as approval.
So item number 14, Tayside Pension Fund Business Plan 25 to 2026.
So annual report detailing key activities planned over the next year. Any comments on this? Stephen, please.
Thanks, Chair. It was just a comment on page 145 and 154 and 155 regarding the structure. Obviously, that'll need updated a little bit. On 155, there is a comment about in para 8 investment consultancy. I just want to double check the dates for that, because it didn't seem to make sense to me in terms of the timeline for when things are started. I just wondered if someone could confirm that that's all right in terms of investment consultancy when ISIO was engaged and the length of time on that contract.
Paul?
Yeah, so happy to look at both these items, Councillor Rome, and confirm that to you. I'll come back to you.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
You should really have noted at the beginning of the meeting, I suppose, that Paul is now the Executive Director of Corporate Services of Dundee City Council, and congratulate him for that. Kenny.
Yeah, congratulations, Paul. I just want to ask on the Appendix 3, page 161. It's about the pension fund administration cost per member. It seems to fluctuate, but I mean, it's gone up 22%, 23-24 compared to 22-23. Is there what are the reasons for that in outline?
So don't have a detailed explanation for that one just now, Kenny. That, I mean, there will be at times any one-off costs that happen during the year that can have a particular spike in one-year transactions, etc. Each year, when we prepare the accounts, there's a narrative prepared in relation to any movements when we undertake that review. So happy to review that and come back to you separately with some further explanation, unless Stuart wants to add anything else just now.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, obviously, some of the additional costs in that particular year was to do with our triennial valuation. So we had higher costs that year. We have a lot more work, both from investment advice and actuarial work ongoing at that time. From memory, we also had some new costs coming through on our systems through Haywoods, our administration system. So there's a combination of things that were higher that year, and yeah, unfortunately no 2 years are the same on this costs. So we continue to obviously monitor our costs frequently and report back to committee.
Okay. George was first, I think.
Yeah, sorry, congratulations as well, Paul. Just I see there was a vacancy still in the thing when there's 3 people covering it. Is that being actively changed, or what's happening there?
Could you remind me, George, in terms of where? Oh, in the structure.
Yeah, I can.
Do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, I'll come in that. Yeah, so yeah, as you know, Lynn McKenzie retired last year, and we've got temporary arrangements in for a 12-month period, which runs until the end of May this year. We are at the moment going through a structural review of the pension funds and are developing that currently, and we'll be able to report back on progress on that and hopefully have a new structure in place shortly. We are been visiting other pension funds in Scotland to see their structures, and yeah, we're still doing our due diligence on that front and progressing it.
Okay. Dorothy, you did have your hand up, but...
Well, it related to the vacancy, the same question.
That's fine. Okay, no further questions, so I'm assuming approval for that report.
Thank you. So the following items are confidential, so I would ask that any members of the press or public please leave the meeting now, and I'll end the recording.